Welcome to GeekFest Rants. I'm Tony Rossi. We're here today at my annual Oktoberfest. We have Carlos Perone, Brian Drew, Rob Waliza, and for the first time ever at a GeekFest Rants podcast, we actually have women present. This is quite the exciting event here. They're all stifling their giggles right now, and they they may want to partake a little later, but for now, the little ladies are going to stay quiet. So...
It's okay, we can let Carlos can edit it.
He can edit this, yeah.
Because I was going to make a comment.
Oh, please do.
So the topic today is movies that are coming out later in the year, and I'm hosting because I don't really have anything to add, but Carlos, Brian, and Rob definitely have some stuff to say about movies that are coming up. So one of them is True Grit. So how about Rob? How about you start us off? Tell us a little about True Grit and why you're interested in it.
Yeah, please, Rob, fill us in.
Well, okay, I will. All right. Well, True Grit is, Tony will appreciate this, a remake of a John Wayne film, 1969, I think.
Excellent. He won the Academy Award for that.
He did.
Robert Duvall was in it.
Robert Duvall was in it, so was Dennis Hopper. If you remember, Dennis Hopper was also in it. And it's a remake by the Coen brothers, who won an Oscar a few years ago, won a couple of Oscars for No Country for Old Men, so they know their Western background. And this one's with Jeff Bridges in the John Wayne part, Matt Damon in the part played by Glenn Campbell, and who's the villain? Josh Brolin in the part played by Robert Duvall in the original, right. Ned Pepper, I believe his name is. And I am interested in it because the trailer has come out. There was a teaser and a full trailer. Both of them looked fantastic.
Yeah, they really did.
Once again, Roger Deakins doing the cinematography looks, I'll see it just for that alone. And anything
Coen brothers.
Oh, yeah, anything the Coen brothers do is worth seeing.
It's also supposed to be much more faithful to the source novel than the Wayne picture was.
Although I have to say a lot of the shots in the trailer look a lot like the shots in the original film. But again, the Coens are going to go and do something totally, maybe not totally different, but there's going to be a darker...
Yeah, but there might be a bit of an homage element to it. It was the Duke.
The trailer alone, from what I remember seeing, there are certain shots that are kind of iconic, I guess, to that particular film. You see the John Wayne character with riding the horse with the reins in his mouth,
shooting a gun.
Right.
Yep, absolutely. But now, I think this is going to be interesting because of the casting, and again because of it's going to be fun to see Jeff Bridges working with the Coens again after Lebowski.
Now, do we know how true to the story it follows?
Well, like Brian said, it's
the
supposed
film
to be very faithful to the book. The movie, the original movie, wasn't so much, but this is supposed to be.
No, it was a John Wayne vehicle, basically.
Where he, like Tony said earlier, he played kind of a caricature. But I think Bridges is going to play it more like,
now, is this normal for the Coen brothers to kind of sort of stay in a certain genre, like in other words, the No Country for Old Man kind of look to a film, or do they usually hop around a lot?
This to me is, I think this is only the second Western they're really doing. Yeah. No Country being the
and they
first.
Made a couple in between.
Right, and last year they did A Serious Man, which for my money was the best movie of that year.
That was really good.
And it's a great
Burn After Reading.
Great Coen film, and it's totally different than either True Grit or No Country. So they always seem to do different stuff, and they always seem to excel at it.
All right, another upcoming movie is Harry Potter, the seventh and final in the series, which is actually being split into two films, probably to make more money, because they could have probably cut down on all the wandering in the book and fit it into one movie. But hey, if they want to make money, they want to make money. So I can't say I've ever been thrilled with the adaptations from the books. I thought they've always been a lot weaker than the books. I liked, what was the fifth one?
Oh, that was...
Order of the Phoenix?
Yes. Right.
That was probably my favorite book of the bunch, and it was a pretty good movie, but it's still, nothing ever lives up to the way it is in the book. So, anybody else a Harry Potter fan here?
I only read the first book, and I thought it was good, but if I had been, 12 years old, I probably would have thought it was the greatest thing ever.
Right.
And I stopped after the third movie. I thought, okay, this is good, but, I've had about enough. I'm a little Harry Pottered out. But what's interesting about this one is not only have they split the movie into two parts, like you said, probably to make money, but although the final book I think was very, very big.
Now, what's the deal with the initially they announced it as a 3D film, and
Yeah.
now it's not?
They're not going to release the first one in 3D because they said they didn't have enough time to get it done, the conversion by November.
So they didn't shoot any of these
No, they
in
should
3D.
No.
But
Okay.
they didn't want their fans to have to wait any longer. But the second part is going to be in 3D because it doesn't come out till next summer, so they should have more than enough time to get that one ready for 3D. But yeah, the first part is not going to be 3D, regular 2D movie.
Now, from the group that we have here, who has actually read the books and who has not read the books? Tony's read them all.
No,
Rob?
I only read book one.
You read book one? Brian? No, I haven't read any of them. And I know a lot of people tell me the books are way better than the film, but I don't want to start now. I want to just finish the film series.
You
And
have
if
enough hobbies, Carl.
yeah, I know. And if I like it, then I'll start dabbling in the books, but not now.
I think this is a perfect opportunity to introduce a female voice to the mix, because I know Carlos's wife Kim has read all the books. So Kim, tell us, what have you thought of the movies and the books?
I'd have to agree with you, Tony. The movies do not measure up to the books. The first one I actually enjoyed was Order of the Phoenix. And I am looking forward to seeing the other two. I just, I hope they can, pull it off because, for the Harry Potter book fans, it was a very, moving ending.
Yes.
And, they have a lot of work to replicate that in the movies. They had a lot of work to do that right.
Did you rush through the book when it came out, the final book, just to know how it ended?
Yes. Yes, I did.
I got it. It's Saturday morning at 8 a.m. It was delivered, and I finished it Sunday at 3 p.m.
I think it was the only. Oh no, I was thinking that was one of the ones I waited online at midnight for, but I didn't. No, okay, never mind.
Well, thank you for that interesting comment, Kim.
You're welcome, Mr. Rossi.
All right, the next movie we want to talk about is Tron, and I think Carlos is the one who's going to start off on that
Another
one.
Jeff Bridges
Tron
movie.
Legacy, yeah.
I know. This is the second film with Jeff Bridges that we're talking about. Well, this is as opposed to the latest craze of remakes and reimaginings, this is, from what I understand, a direct sequel to the original 82, I think it was.
Yep.
82 Disney film Tron. Which, back then it was somewhat of a big deal in terms of the innovative nature of it, from the graphics, the first computer graphics that we've seen. A lot of it wasn't even real graphics. It was black and white film, colored,
Right, a lot of
Yeah.
optical stuff.
and very Atari-looking
Rotoscoping,
stuff.
a lot of
Yep.
that kind of thing, yeah.
Very expensive movie and a huge bomb.
Yes, it was considered a bomb, but it kind of has a cult following throughout the years, and somehow they decided to continue with it, and they managed to get just about everybody from the original film. Jeff Bridges obviously appears to be playing two different characters of himself.
Yeah, very creepy digital version.
Yeah, and it's funny because one of the things I mentioned was that it looks digital. It looks like they made him look younger, and it works because if you're supposed to be in a computer environment, it's supposed to look a little glitchy and a little unrealistic. So I think from that point of view, it works.
I didn't think it looked so bad when I saw it in the trailer. I actually watched it a couple of times because I didn't expect to see a younger Jeff Bridges. And while, yeah, you're right, he is smoothed out, and it does look, in Brian's words, kind of creepy.
A little Professor
At the same
X-ish.
time, what you said, it's true. In a computer-generated world, I would imagine he'd look a little...
You know what it is? It's kind of similar to. It's funny because I was just watching some stuff about Empire Strikes Back, and they were saying how when they decided to do the AT-ATs, it was like, well, it's old-fashioned stop motion, and who's going to believe it? Old-fashioned stuff. Even back in the 80s, it was old-fashioned. But it was like, well, wait a minute, you're dealing with mechanical devices, so they're supposed to look jerky and mechanical. So for the Jeff Bridges, in this particular case, I think it's a similar situation. You might kind of let it kind of slip because it's not supposed to look perfect. It's supposed to look a little off, and that's the look they ended up with.
Well, I'll say this. I just recently rented Tron because I hadn't seen it in years. With the remake coming out, I wanted to see... I mean, not the remake, the sequel coming out. I wanted to see the original again. And I thought... I still think, in a lot of ways, it's a very groundbreaking looking film. I mean, it's the stuff inside the computer looks amazing. Still to this day. I mean, it still holds up in a lot of ways.
And nobody
But
redid it. In other words, nobody took advantage of whatever effects or whatever style they had and copied it. No, it was a one-shot deal, and that was the last time they
And
touched
that was
it.
it. But the new version, with its, obviously they have a much bigger budget.
It's
and
all out
now
there.
it looks really. I mean, it just pops off the screen.
Right. Like
And I'm
Brian's-
anxious to see. I have to say, I thought the story was a little lacking in the original Tron.
Yeah.
The effects are really what sells it. this time around, I'm hoping that they get both on the same track, and looks like it's going to be.
And like you guys said, Bruce Boxleitner's back, so that's cool. They finally, they got an original character to come back. I don't know how many more original ones they could get.
I think it was an online push to get Cindy Morgan to come back into it, but I don't think she's part of it.
Okay.
And I don't know if David Warner is a part of it either.
Morgan, who's?
She was what was her name?
She was in Caddyshack, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's Lacey Young.
She's and she's dying to work. She makes every single convention round. You always see her there, hawking her pictures, and I'm surprised. I bet you she's dying to get into that. But with one of the other lead characters who plays his son is a kid from Friday Night Lights, or one of these shows.
I don't know.
You guys not familiar with him? It's funny. He looks to me. He reminds me of who's the guy who played the Green Goblin. William Dafoe.
Right.
He looks like a young William Dafoe. He's got this weird Jokerish smile to him. It's like, wow, that's a weird looking character. But
the director of this too was a guy. I think his name is Joseph Kaczynski. He's a music video director, and I've heard him referred to as I've said this about a lot of people. He's the latest guy to be referred to as like the next Spielberg.
Wow.
So we'll see what he can pull off. But
Or
based on the
J.J.
trailer,
Abrams was the next
right. But with the trailer, it does look like it's going to be really something. To see.
well, the trailer looks very Matrixy. Very now. This could be just the editing, but the look is also a little. I mean, it's a good next step from the original.
Well, it looks like they pushed away a lot of the color scheme and just made it mostly blue, which kind of adds to that electric feel that look to the the computer generated world that they're living in. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be something worth seeing. Definitely. I believe Tron Legacy is going to be in 3D. There's no question about that.
And it's being promoted through the roof.
Yeah.
Final movie up for discussion today is pretty far in the distance, but it's The Hobbit, directed by Peter Jackson. Another film it's a small book that they're going to split into 2 parts, supposedly bring in some extra sources from Tolkien that he wrote some of his other stuff. Who's looking forward to The Hobbit?
Oh, me, absolutely.
That's why I pushed the microphone over.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. And I'm happy Peter Jackson's doing it.
It would have been interesting to see if Del Toro had done it.
It would have been, but for the continuity of the way everything should look and feel, I think it's better that the whole visual vocabulary of those films is Peter Jackson's.
Absolutely.
And to me, I think it should stay that way.
And I had also heard that when Del Toro was planning to direct it, that Jackson was so involved anyway that Del Toro sort of backed off and said,
Oh, is
I don't
that
want
really
to
why?
Yeah, because
So
he
what's
was
the
like,
scheduling then?
No, it was.
But what was the original story put out there about that they couldn't get the money, the finances were there, so Del Toro had to jump to another project?
Wasn't MGM involved in the production of it for a time? And
They are. The only reason this has been held up is because of MGM.
But I had heard that Jackson was, because he was producing, he was so deeply involved that I think Del Toro, not that they had problems, with the direction of the movie, but I think Del Toro just said, look, you know what? I think you're the guy who's got to do this. You have the vision. I'll do my own stuff. Thanks for the opportunity, but you go ahead and do it. And it was still kind of a surprise to hear because I had heard they were talking to other people and that Jackson finally.
Well, I imagine Jackson was the first choice.
I suspect the only way they were going to finally get the final financing was if he directed it.
Right. Now, have they resolved these? Apparently, they had some union problems with some of the
labor issues.
Labor issues. Did that get resolved? That's still in the works.
I think that's still kind of in flux, right?
I don't know. Tony's the one who mentioned that before.
Yeah, no, it was bad. It got really ugly, like last week.
Wow.
I would assume that if they've given the picture a go light, that it's going to go.
Well, I don't know. Jackson still got he and Spielberg were working on that Tintin trilogy.
Yeah, because that's going to be a real gangbuster.
But Jackson was supposed to be doing part 2, and then both were going to direct the third part.
Right.
Now, I don't know what the status of that is. I don't know if that's still moving on. I don't know if he's going to take a break from The Hobbit to do Tintin or vice versa. But yeah, I mean, Lord of the Rings, for as long as they were those movies, they were some of the biggest box office.
So here's the question: do you think this is going to be shot in 3D?
I wouldn't be surprised.
It is going to be shot in 3D. He said it was going to be shot in 3D.
There you go.
Just to take a quick detour, you mentioned the problems at MGM before. The James Bond film has been held up, and Brian is the big James Bond fan here. So, Brian, tell us what you think about the future of the Bond franchise.
It's on hold. I mean, until they secure the financing. There was a quote from Michael Wilson, who is Cubby Broccoli's stepson, who produces the films with Cubby's daughter, Barbara, and they basically said that they're doing nothing right now. They had a script idea, but they basically stopped doing anything until the financing with MGM gets cleared up. So there's not going to be a Bond film for at least another 2 years, if not 3.
I had heard before any of the trouble started that Peter Morgan was working on a script. Who's done the Queen
Mendes
and
is supposed to direct
right,
it.
and he had done the Queen. He just wrote Hereafter, which just came out, the Clint Eastwood movie.
What does that mean for the
And,
actors?
Well, Daniel Craig's off doing The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
But is he
He's
still?
under contract.
He's under contract to
Right.
do what? To stay with them for X amount of years, whether they do a picture or not.
Yeah, I
He's
mean,
on a 3-picture deal, so
yeah, but he's going to age out at some point. I mean, if they don't make it for another 10 years, he's going to be way too
I don't
old.
think it's going to happen. There's too much money at stake. It'll happen before.
Well, as long as whatever they come out with is better than Quantum of Solace, but I don't think it could be much
that
worse.
picture was horrendous.
As great as Casino Royale was, that's as bad as Quantum of
Yeah,
Solace.
it was awful.
It was a mess, really a mess.
And that wraps up this edition of Geek Fest Rants. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
That's it for Geek Fest Rants!